Coincidences, mate. Sometimes life lines things up so paradoxically that even the coppers wouldn't believe it if you told them. One of these moments happened in my own marriage. Honestly, if I hadn't been right there in the middle of it, I'd reckon someone was pulling my leg or embellishing the story. Back then, my wife and I were in our 5th year of marriage. We were pretty standard, not much different from any other Aussie couple. We both worked, spent our weekends together, just living the life, no major dramas. We hadn't gotten around to having kids yet, no ankle biters running around. And looking back now, I reckon that was a blessing in disguise. If we'd had a kid, they wouldn't have liked the story I'm about to tell you. As everyone knows, you can never have enough cash. We were young, full of energy, and tried to make a buck wherever we could. But business is a fickle thing, ups and downs. You know the drill. During a bit of a dry spell at my main job, I decided to pick up some evening shifts driving a taxi. I had a yarn with a mate of mine who'd been driving cabs for ages. He told me they were desperate for drivers. Since my car was a pretty premium model, not your standard bucket of bolts, I qualified for the higher tariff silver service kind of stuff. Reckon it's worth a crack, I told my wife one evening. I didn't need to be at my main office every day, so working a few nights seemed like a no-brainer. I couldn't have guessed that conversation would change everything. That this new side hustle would be the exact tool I needed to uncover my wife's betrayal. A couple of days later, I went in for the vehicle inspection. They checked my driving record, made sure I didn't have any outstanding fines, the usual checks. I was hired pretty quick. After a few nights on the road, I'd already helped pull a colleague out of a muddy bog near a construction site and jump-started another bloke's car that refused to turn over in the cold morning air. I was fitting in well with the crew. One night, I pulled into a servo that's a gas station to grab a coffee. Bumped into one of the other drivers. "Listen, mate," he said, taking a sip of his fresh brew. "Don't be shy. This job can be brutal, fair dinkum. Anything can happen on the road. If you need a hand, just shout out on the radio. We look after our own." "Cheers," I said. Turns out the city was divided into zones to make pickups faster. Drivers usually stuck to their specific patches. I did the math and teamed up with the boys in my local area. "Hey guys," I asked them at the rank one night, "is it possible to switch zones?" I explained I lived ages away from where I was currently driving, and the commute home after a 12-hour shift was a killer. "Yeah, too easy," they told me. By the next night, I was working the zone right near my house. From there, it was business as usual. Night after night, shift after shift. I got the hang of it, sleeping patterns, diet, finding the shortcuts to avoid traffic. I was making decent tips because I was quick. But the good times hit a brick wall eventually. It was Valentine's Day. My wife and I had a nice, low-key dinner at a restaurant. I stayed off the grog completely because of work, and she just had one glass of wine. We headed home early. We weren't huge on making a massive fuss about the holiday, but we didn't mind celebrating it quietly together. However, that evening, my wife claimed she was feeling a bit crook under the weather. Said she wanted an early night. "Righto, I'll go out and do a few hours then," I said. "It's a holiday, prime time for fares, best money of the year." I remember it clearly. I made sure she was settled and didn't need anything else. She hopped into bed and I headed out to work. But apparently, her sickness vanished the second my taillights disappeared. A few hours later, around midnight, a job popped up on my screen. "Oh, it looks like someone from my building is heading out to party," I thought at first. But then, something felt off in my gut. The pickup was from my address, my driveway. And the destination? A massive, expensive house out in the semi-rural suburbs, the kind of place where the wealthy hide away in gated acreages. I was about to hit accept, but I froze. Why would my neighbours be going to a private estate in the middle of the night on Valentine's Day instead of a club or a bar? And the screen said, 1 passenger. This is definitely someone's private business, I thought. I didn't want to make things awkward if it was a neighbour sneaking around. So I decided to pass. "Robbo," I radioed my mate who was nearby. "There's a job at this address. Can you grab it for me?" But curiosity killed the cat, right? I had to know who in my building was taking midnight trips to mansions. I drove back to my street, parked opposite the apartment block, killed the lights and the engine. 2 minutes later, Robbo's car rolled up. What I saw next is burned into my memory forever. Walking out of our building, looking fresh and energetic, was my wife. When the cat's away, the mice will play, the old saying goes. But I wasn't laughing. She hopped into Robbo's taxi and they took off. I called Robbo immediately. "Listen, mate, don't use my name. Just say yes or no. Got it?" "Yeah," he sounded confused. "You've got a brunette in the back. Beige coat. Brown leather bag. Smells like fruity perfume. Yeah?" I knew I was right, but I needed to hear it. "Yeah, that's the one," Robbo whispered, turning his speaker down. "Take her wherever she wants to go. Then text me the exact address," I told him. I couldn't follow them. The roads were empty at that hour. If I tailed them, she'd spot my car in a heartbeat. She wouldn't get out, wouldn't go inside, and I'd never know who the guy was. 20 minutes later, my phone pinged. The address. I drove out there, parked across from the massive gates and waited. Jobs kept popping up on my app, but I declined them all. Eventually, I called dispatch and told them to sign me off. I was done for the night. I just sat there, waiting. She had to come out eventually. It was getting close to 7 a.m. Usually, that's when I'd be rolling home from a shift, which meant she had to be back before then to keep up the charade. Sure enough, a taxi pulled up to the gates. 10 minutes later, my wife walked out of the house, arm in arm with some random bloke I'd never seen. Judging by the way they were walking, they hadn't stopped at just one glass of wine. They were all over each other, not even trying to hide it from the cabbie. A final grope, a kiss goodbye, and she got into the taxi. I floored it. I overtook them on the highway and got back to our apartment block first. I wanted to see the look on her face when I welcomed her home. Picture this, 7:30 a.m. She climbs out of the taxi, probably rehearsing her "I just woke up" face. She looks up and sees me standing there, staring at her. You could see the gears turning in her head. Panic. On one hand, she had to act surprised to see me. On the other, she had to invent a story about where the hell she'd been. But honestly, she was so hungover, the only thing she probably wanted to do was pick up the keys she'd just dropped on the pavement. I didn't give her the chance to lie. I decided to use her shock against her. I looked her dead in the eye and told her I knew everything. That I'd been the one who sent the car. That I'd followed her. She didn't even try to deny it. In her state, she couldn't. And that's how it ended. We're divorced now. But if I had one piece of advice for my ex-wife, it'd be this. Next time, pay a bit more attention to your husband's job. Maybe learn what company he drives for. That way, you won't accidentally summon him to pick you up for your next affair.